Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Alexander Howell, and today what we're going to talk about are the streets of Merida, Mexico. And no, for those of you who are wondering, this is not about the mean streets of Merida, Mexico. In fact, Merida is the second safest city in North America and the safest city in Mexico. So we're not going to talk about the mean streets. In fact, just to let you know, when we've been down there, my family and I travel down there a couple of times a year, and we actually are building a house down there, which is why I'm so excited to make these videos and talk about the city that we have fallen absolutely in love with enough to actually purchase a home in that city. But when we've been down there, this is a place where I felt safer than I have pretty much anywhere that I've been in the world. We've walked at night, very late, we've walked in the early hours, we've seen all kinds of different areas of the city, but for the most part, anytime that we are down there, it has never been a situation where we feel like we are in danger or even gonna be messed with at all. Like literally the most accosted we have ever been is going out of Plaza Grande, and we've had a bunch of people offer us some, knickknacks. We normally don't buy them. Anyway. But no, this video has to do with the actual physical streets of Merida, Mexico. What makes them interesting, what makes them less interesting for some travelers, and I just want to get that out there because it is one of the surprises that we had when we went down, and I thought this is probably some good information to bring to all of you. So let's roll the intro. Now, first of all, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Alexander Howell. This YouTube channel talks a lot about Merida, Mexico. It also talks about real estate, travel, and that kind of thing. So if you like and enjoy that kind of thing, please feel free to like and subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and that's gonna let you know anytime that I go live. You can also feel free to text me directly at 816-727-7740 if you happen to have any questions about Merida. And if you have a longer question, feel free to visit my website, alexanderhowell.com, hit the contact us page. All that does is send me a direct email. So if you kind of have a few different questions that don't really fit over text, go there and we're all good to go. And if you'd like to see some of the updates, the construction, things like that, or live stream in a different way than on YouTube, at Alexander from KC is where you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, things of that nature. And we're going to see more and more of that coming up. But Instagram is kind of my main jam, and if you really do want to see the updated pictures, that is normally where I post them. You'll also see pictures of the lake and pool and that kind of thing. So hope you enjoy that. Now let's start out with a few basic facts about the streets in Merida, Mexico. You're going to see them referred to as calles, and you're going to see them run east to west, north to south. Now obviously they're diagonals and things like that, but when you're looking at the actual city, it is in a very true grid pattern, especially when you get down to the more historic areas. And so the streets that run east to west are going to be in odd numbers. So 57, 59, calle 57, calle 59. They're going to run east to west, and you'll see them kind of going up and down north to south. But the streets that run north to south, they're going to be even numbers. So calle 60, calle 58, things like that. All of those streets are going to be in a grid pattern, and that might cause some early confusion, but for the most part, as you get more and more used to the city, it's going to be an easy way for you to tell exactly where something is in the city, or at least get a general idea. Now, on top of that, you're going to have more famous streets like the famous Paseo de Mateo, which I talked about a lot. The last time that we actually stayed there for several weeks at a time, we stayed just off of Paseo de Mateo, and it is a beautiful street. Now, this runs north to south, so basically from the Periférico, which we're going to get to in just a second, all the way down into the central area of the city, and it is a very commercialized street. So we have banks and coffee houses, restaurants, shops, all kinds of different things are located on Paseo de Mateo. Another thing to think about, especially when you get into the south side, you'll see this quite a bit, is you will see these things located in these giant, beautiful, older homes. And those homes are actually built from people who were millionaires back in the day from the sale of henequen, which was the material that was used to make hammocks. So a lot of haciendas would be outside of the city, and then when somebody would want to come into the city, they'd come into their mansion. And for a time, Merida had more millionaires per capita than any other city in the entire world. And you will see those buildings. Some of them are museums, a couple of them are private residences, but for the most part, they have been converted into more commercial structures. Now, speaking of the Periférico, it is the circular highway that runs around Merida, Mexico. Now, this is really convenient. You just hit the Periférico, go all the way around, and now you're on the opposite side of the city. Very quick way to get to different places. However, According to the Yucatan magazine in 2019, it was also noted as the 5th most dangerous highway in all of Mexico. So even though Merida itself is a very safe place, the highway surrounding it leaves a little bit to be desired. So just something to think about, but it's also a very convenient way to get from one point to the other. And if you need a reference point for what it's like, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, and it is like 435 around Kansas City, Missouri if you pull that up on a map. It is just an oval, circular shaped highway that runs around the city, allows for easy transportation to get all around. It's pretty awesome. So while some of the streets in Merida, Mexico have to do with getting from one place to another, they have to do with a historic boulevard that has been transformed into a commercialized district. For the most part, you're going to deal, especially when you get into those historic districts like Santiago, Santa Ana, Chenbec, and the like, you're going to start seeing streets that are very narrow, they're mostly one way, and they have little cutouts, little diamonds that allow you to actually make a turn as opposed to trying to turn around 90-degree angles throughout. They might seem like a bit of an inconvenience at times when you're trying to see around one corner or around another when you're walking, but as a driver, it makes it far, far easier to navigate those streets. But it's not just the corners. These streets are well maintained and then not as well maintained. And that just is what it is. You can go to any city in any country and you're gonna see some streets that are well maintained and not so much. That just happens, especially in a city that is as old as Merida is. But the thing that I really wanted to talk about, and the main reason that I made this video, isn't just the streets, it's what's connected directly to them. Now, in many of my videos, I've talked about the fact that Merida seems like kind of a concrete walled city until you get behind the facade of any building. It's pretty much long things of concrete, sidewalk, street, but once you get behind those concrete facades, you're going to see beautiful palatial places and or places that maybe you want to buy when you go down, and you can make them into beautiful palatial places behind that facade. But when you think about the sidewalks of Merida, Mexico, that's really what this video was trying to send out a warning to talk about, because the sidewalks are actually very,
a few moments later.
different. And what do I mean by different? I mean that in different areas, they are incredibly different. In one area, a sidewalk could be 3 feet wide, have a nice 8-inch dip, and be a nice one-stepper onto the street. However, what you might run into, especially at some of those intersections, if you're looking at a map and you have any issue walking in one way, shape, or form. You can't make long jumps because you're using a cane, especially if you are in a wheelchair. I would say really look into what route you're taking, because these sidewalks are not necessarily, now let's just be honest, they are not ADA compliant in any way, shape, and or form. Now, I can already hear a lot of you guys in the comment section watching this video right now, and you're like, 1, ADA is a United States thing. 2, you're traveling to a different country, so you shouldn't look at things in a negative light. Again, this video is about trying to make sure that people understand what they're getting into, because a lot of people love Merida and the idea of it, and probably see videos like this where they're thinking, I want to go there, and that's it. But if you are in a wheelchair especially, or even if you busted a leg, I actually messed up my left foot really bad about a week before we left for Merida for 3 weeks. I had to bring my boot down there. It was not the most convenient thing in the entire world, but I was at least able to get through it because the boot kind of helped me out. But if I had a permanent issue, it would have been really, really difficult in some of the areas that we stayed. Now, Paseo de Mateo, absolutely fine. For the most part, outside of just some of the streets just off of it, Paseo de Mateo is very well put together. There are several tripping hazards when you think about the bricks in between the concrete, but for the most part, it's very well put together and easy to kind of get around. But when you get into the side streets, there are sidewalks that are a foot above the actual street with no ramp down. And I'm not kidding you, there's an area where I've seen at least, I think I'm up to 3 now, 3 different handicap accessible ramps that have the handicap accessible signage. And if you go this way, you run into a telephone pole, which you can't get around. And if you go this way, the width of the sidewalk goes down to about 18 inches. So you can get up off of the road, but getting anywhere else is completely impossible. On top of that, seeing some of the commercial buildings that do have ramps that are not really good at complying with your normal setup for a wheelchair, trying to get up them and stuff like that, it would make it difficult. And I think that that's something that if you're thinking about traveling down there, 1, I would encourage you to still go, because there are tons of ways to get around that, especially if you're traveling with other parties. However, it is a complication that I don't see a lot of other people talking about, and it is something very obvious the moment that you get off of some of the main areas. And this is true in Progreso, it's true in Chelem, Chaberna. I've seen this in all areas of Merida and northern Yucatan as well. So it's not something that is just about that city. It is not something that is just about that historic district. But again, a couple of ways to get around it. The first one is, on your first trip to Merida, go to either El Norte, the northern area, which is a little bit more modern and therefore a little bit more compliant in some of the ways that we're used to here in the States and in Canada. The other thing is stay around some of the larger areas. And I don't mean stay around Plaza Grande, because that's gonna have a few issues just off of the main square. What I mean is stay somewhere like we've stayed in the past, which is the Hyatt Regency Hotel, which is located on Paseo de Mateo and in a more quote unquote modern area. It's a very convenient hotel, has everything pretty much ready for you to go. There are ramps, there are elevators, there are all kinds of different options for somebody to be able to get around a little bit easier. And on top of that, the sidewalk to go right into Paseo de Mateo, which is about a block away, there's a lot of handicap accessible areas going back and forth in between the intersections there. Paseo de Mateo, again, does have some bumps and some tripping hazards, but not as bad as some of the other areas of the city. So start in a place like that, where I can say that you will not have as many issues. And even with a Walmart that is very, very close to that area as well, you have every convenience that you might possibly need, and then start venturing out when you're ready. I think that's the most important thing. So when you think about the streets of Merida, Mexico, they can be very fun. The historic districts run north-south, nice grid pattern, pretty easy to navigate. Then you think about the fact that you've got these beautiful buildings, all kinds of different places you can go. The Periferico's there, Paseo de Mateo is beautiful, but really what I wanted to make this video about is to make sure that if you're thinking about traveling to Merida, Mexico, and you have somebody in your party that may need a little bit of assistance getting up, down, and around, make sure that you do your research, stay in an area that is a little bit more modern. Again, the northern area is pretty easily navigable, and especially the area around the Hyatt Regency Hotel, which I cannot say enough about because we've stayed there several times and really, really enjoyed it. There are areas like that. And again, guys, if you do have questions, if you want to work through this, send me an email. Just go to my website, alexanderhowell.com, hit contact us, and it literally just sends an email directly to my alexander@alexanderhowell.com email address. Also send me a text at 816-727-7740, and that goes directly to me. But again, if it's a super long question, the email works better. And if you do want to see the areas of Mexico that we've been to, at Alexander from KC on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch, happy to do it. If you guys want to comment down below and tell me what you think. I know that some of these issues that I bring up when I talk about a city that we are moving into, it's like I get a few comments that are like, you don't know what you're talking about, or this is wrong. Feel free to comment down below. I'm happy to learn about the things. I can only report on what I've seen though. So if you like this video though, again, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell, which will let you know anytime that I go live and or one of these videos goes live, in which case I always do a premiere. So I'm here to be able to chat with you guys. So I hope you enjoy that. And one last thing before we end this video, because you guys are here at the end of the video, is things like Uber are incredibly inexpensive down there, but a lot of the cars are smaller. So you're not necessarily getting into a large car that might also have room for all of the things you might need for a daily trip. There are tons of ways to rent a car, and there are tons of ways to get a car service ready. I've talked about those in several of my other videos, especially with David Silveranos, who has done an incredible job helping us out. And if you want to know more about that stuff, just visit our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/travel2Merida. So facebook.com/groups/travel2Merida, and ask the question. And I'm always on there too, so feel free to ask me and I'll give you David's number. He is a part of the group as well. And again, thank you guys so much for watching these videos. I very much appreciate you sticking to the end. And as always, peace.